Hello, I'm Richard Cowan. I edited a website called marijuananews.com, but even before I started doing that, I was following Steve Kubby's story because he was championing Proposition 215, the medical marijuana initiative in California. I started writing about it in Marijuana News. I was covering him as a Libertarian Party candidate for governor when he and his family were arrested for growing Steve's medicine. That made the story even more compelling to me. We pulled it all together in a book called Reefer Refugees, which is a story about how the Kubby family, a libertarian family, an American family, had to go into exile in order for Steve to be able to live. Because here in Canada, he's allowed to grow his own medicine, something that has saved his life. And this is a story that, unlike many libertarian issues, has received major international coverage, not just in the United States, but also here in Canada. And in a moment, you will see a program produced by the Canadian Broadcasting Company, anchored by Peter Mansbridge, Canada's answer to Walter Cronkite, that shows how this story, a libertarian story, has for once received major international coverage. This is something we as libertarians find very frustrating at times because we are so often ignored. But the Kubby family story is a major story here in Canada and internationally. And this shows the libertarian role in bringing freedom not just to America, but to the world. And now you'll see how the CBC reported on the Kubby story here in Canada.
The war in Iraq is one issue where the United States and Canada are at odds, but there's another one, a big one. It's marijuana. In the United States, marijuana is illegal, period. But Canada is a different story. Aside from having softer laws on marijuana possession, those laws don't apply to those who can prove they need marijuana for health reasons. It's enough to attract Americans who come up north here seeking Canadian marijuana and Canadian refugee status. Here's Duncan McHugh with Reefer Refugees.
Steve Kubby doesn't look sick, but his visits to Sechelt Hospital for blood work are regular enough that his daughters know the routine.
So come on in then.
Okay.
Your daddy's had this done before, ain't he?
In Kubby's abdomen is a malignant tumor about the size of a fist. He has adrenal cancer. Left untreated, adrenaline-like fluids could flood his body and kill him.
There it is, 1.3 grams, the standard Kubby joint.
This is his medicine. He smokes a dozen marijuana joints every day.
This is my favorite strain. It's Celestial Temple Sativa from Ecuador. Nice. It wakes me up and makes me more alert, not less alert as you would expect with cannabis. Nice and smooth. And it allows me to work more productively. It's been very effective, far more effective than any other medicine in controlling my blood pressure and protecting me from heart attacks and strokes. I'm still learning how to grow these fussy plants.
Kubby is no green thumb. He leaves that to his wife, Michelle.
This is not just a fun garden for me, and I want to make the best medicine possible for Steve.
His choice of medicine isn't that unusual in Canada. Many, from AIDS patients to chronic pain sufferers, are turning to marijuana for treatment. The trouble for Kubby is he's American. And in the U.S., drug agents consider cannabis illegal for any use.
They want me to go to prison. They want to test this hypothesis that I'm faking, that medical marijuana is a fraud. And that is my contention with the United States. I have Island Sweet Skunk right over there.
Steve Kubby has fought for his brand of medicine ever since he was diagnosed with cancer in 1975. After a battery of treatments failed, he was given 5 years to live. A friend offered him a joint. It changed his life.
I mean, I've tried every medicine that there is. The doctors will tell you I've had chemotherapy, radiation, 4 major surgeries, every blood pressure medication, every experimental medication. None of it works. Only cannabis works for me, and cannabis is the only medicine that I take right now.
That claim is being backed here in BC. Cancer specialist Dr. Joseph Connors says he's no expert on cannabis, but he examined Kubby and found marijuana helps control Kubby's heart rate and blood pressure, which reduces his risk of heart attack or stroke.
If you leave out the marijuana word here, if there were 2 medicines, medicine A and medicine B, that a patient could take, and medicine B worked better than medicine A, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to recommend to the patient that they take the less effective medicine. I don't think we have a more complicated situation than that.
Connors says if marijuana disappeared from the earth tomorrow, Kubby could be treated with conventional medicines, but they wouldn't be as effective.
If it were me, I wouldn't want someone telling me, take the inferior remedy. So I don't think it makes good sense, humanely or medically, to recommend to him that he take the less effective remedy.
Kubby's preferred remedy won mainstream support in 1996 when his home state of California took an unprecedented step. Voters approved the use of medical marijuana. But the U.S. government said medical marijuana was just a smokescreen for legalization. Attorney General Janet Reno stood firm. Federal anti-drug laws trumped state law.
Despite these initiatives, we want to make clear that federal law still applies, and federal officials will continue to apply the law.
The crackdown that followed brought the drug war to the Kubby's California home in 1999. Drug agents rooted up over 200 cannabis plants. The Kubbys were charged with drug trafficking and thrown in jail for 3 days.
For the police to deprive me of medical marijuana and force me into a hypertensive paroxysm is no different than if the police were to take a diabetic's insulin away from them and force them to undergo diabetic shock.
Prosecutors argued he was faking and the Kubbys sold pot for profit. A jury disagreed and acquitted them. But the raid had turned up other drugs, a peyote button and a magic mushroom. Exhibits for his book on the drug war, Kubby claimed, but he was found guilty of possession of narcotics and sentenced to 4 months house arrest and probation.
They were going to punish me for my political beliefs, threaten my life, and then put me on probation that could have easily resulted in my being picked up, jailed, and killed before my family could bail me out and get marijuana to me.
The Kubbys fled north to Seashelt.
This is the Pot TV News for February.
They accepted a contract to work for Pot TV, a marijuana news website.
As soon as we came across the border, it felt like a huge weight had been lifted from our shoulders.
Staying in Canada means everything to us because there's no other country in the world that respects medical marijuana on a federal level the way Canada does.